You're still watching this morning's broadcast here on News Central Television. This is News Now with me, Joe Hansen. Let's take a quick look at the top stories for this hour. Several killed in attack on Iringe-Koko community in Ebonyi State. Nigerian Army dismantles 12 illegal refineries, arrests 16 in Niger Delta. And militia recruits new fighters to battle M23 rebels. Do stay with us to get details of these stories and more in a moment. News Central now begins this hour with security matters, where we understand that Iringe-Koko, a community in Ebonyi State, has been violently attacked on Sunday, resulting in several deaths and widespread property destruction. Many buildings were set on fire during the assault, which is believed to be a reprisal for the killing of cattle in the area. Professor Grace Iringe-Koko confirmed the attack, stating that many bodies are still being recovered, especially from local farms. A Pentecostal pastor was reported among the victims. A source revealed that the cattle were killed by members of the Eastern Security Network, ESN, not the community. The chairperson of Ishelu local government area, Ifoma Peace Agu, confirmed the incident, stating that victims' bodies are being transported to the mortuary. The police are yet to make a comment. We'll stay with security matters now. The Nigerian Army's 6th Division says it has successfully destroyed 12 illegal oil refining sites and arrested 16 suspects in a week-long operation across the Niger Delta. Conducted from January 27 to February 2, 2025, the operation also resulted in the confiscation of over 70,000 liters of stolen petroleum products. Troops, working with other security agencies, intercepted stolen crude and vandalized pipelines across rivers Imo, Delta, and Bayelsa states. Significant finds included 102 sacks of stolen petroleum products and multiple illegal refining facilities. The Army has handed over the suspects to the relevant authorities and vowed to intensify efforts to ensure the security of oil exploration activities in the region indeed continues. Well, the Kano State Police Command has arrested the wife and associate of suspected Chadian terrorist Ahmad Adam Abba, wanted for the killing of 17 people in his home country. Police Commissioner Salman Garba confirmed the arrest, revealing that Abba, who remains at large, planned to establish a terrorist base in Kano. Among those apprehended is another Chadian, Jibrin Mohammed, and a Nigerian. Authorities also recovered improvised explosive devices, IEDs, during the operation. Garba reassured residents that security efforts had been intensified, urging the public to report suspicious activities. Police say investigations are ongoing, with efforts underway to track down Abba and other accomplices. Well, to discuss this, I'm being joined by security expert Inko Taria Ipalibo. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Let's look at this recent findings. What are the security potentials in terms of implication of a wanted terrorist attempting to establish a base in Nigeria, particularly in Kano State?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. The establishment of any terrorist cell in any state of the country would be very disastrous. It will be, the potential implication will be very, very disastrous and should be vehemently resisted. Because once the cell groups are established, or the base, the terrorist base established, the next is to begin to perpetuate crime and then carry out targeted violence against civilians and cause the kind of situation that will make it impossible for that community or that city to thrive economically. So it should be resisted. It should not be allowed.
All right. How significant is the arrest of Abba's associates, and what impact could it have on broader counter-terrorism efforts, especially here in Nigeria?
Very significant, because it will give room for the security agencies to extract intelligence that will lead to the eventual arrest of Abba and any other associate that is still at large. So the fact that the security agencies have been able to arrest some of the associates, it's a significant development in the fight against terrorism.
All right. Let me also ask very quickly, what challenges do security agencies face, especially in tracking, apprehending fugitives like Ahmad Adam Abba, especially now that a lot of Nigerians are looking forward to see his posters, his pictures everywhere? Could you expatiate on this?
Well, the porosity of our borders has been a recurring decimal anytime we discuss security issues, particularly in the north. As a country, it has become very difficult for us to control who gains access to this country. The borders are porous, the people entering are not documented. So you cannot track somebody that is not traceable. It's only what is traceable that can be tracked. Now, yes, we have his pictures. That means that it will only be, the lead will only be given, or intelligence will only be given by people who meet him physically. And terrorists do not roam the streets randomly. Even if they have to go out, they plan their movement and they go out in secrecy ways that will make it difficult for people to identify them. So having his picture all over is not enough to trace or to track him. We as a country, we need to be very serious with how we control our borders. And then we also need to start documenting, at every entry point and start using data to coordinate our activities.
Well, you just said start using data to coordinate activities. Can you admit that we still have a lot of problem with collating data, especially our data collations? Look at it from the NIN aspect down to what we have today. And if we're not able to solve that, do you think that we'll be able to solve a broader one, a wider spectrum, where we have to collect data of terrorists and ensure that it's being shared evenly on all security forces front so that they can actually protect our borders? Do you think it's doable?
Well, for me, I am very optimistic that anything good is doable if we will pay the price and give the political will that it requires. It's to have an organized data is not rocket science. There are countries that currently have that problem solved. So if Nigeria wants to solve a data problem, she should put the necessary resources and political will to solving it, because we cannot continue with this circle of it's not possible, it's difficult, and stuff like that. It's high time we take things seriously in this country. You want to fight security, data is vital, data is key. You want to track people, you need data. So the fact that these things are paramount to our peaceful existence, they are crucial to solving security problems. The government should, because of that reason, pay more attention to how we can get it right. It's possible to get data right in Nigeria.
All right, Ahmad Adam Abba, the security forces have his wife now. They also have his associates. If you were to advise security forces, or if you were to take charge, what do you think the next steps would be in order to enable his capture at this moment?
I am very certain that currently they are debriefing, they are getting intelligence from them. They should continue to use whatever strategy that is available to them to extract information from those people, particularly the wife and the associates. If you get the wife and the associate of a terrorist, you are almost as good as getting the terrorist, because even except you do not know how to extract information or intelligence from them, if you know how to get those things from them, you will get it, and then you would plan your operation and execute with precision, and the rest will be history.
All right. Great points, May. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Palibo, here on News Now.
Thank you for having me.
Away from that insecurity story, let's go straight to River State, where the River State Police Command has dismissed reports of a shooting incident involving rival political groups at the People's Democratic Party secretariat in Port Harcourt. The police described claims of an armed clash as false and misleading. There had been widespread reports in various online platforms suggesting that supporters of opposing PDP factions engaged in a gun duel at the party secretariat. However, in a statement issued on Sunday, the spokesperson for the River State Police Command, Grace Iringe-Koko, dismissed the allegations, calling them a deliberate attempt to incite panic. The police assured residents of their continued vigilance and urged the public to rely on verified sources for information. Let's move to another news now. The announcement of the reduction of ex-depot price of petrol from 950 naira to 890 naira per litre is expected to have some impact of the cost of transportation in general and also engage or indeed affect price control. Now, this announcement was made on Saturday, February 1. However, this reduction seems to not have reflected at various filling stations. Let's also tell you that 30 passengers have died in a fiery auto crash in Ondo State's Odigbo local council. The accident happened on Saturday when two commercial buses collided head-on and burst into flames at the Onikbetisi axis along the Ore-Lagos Expressway. Out of 32 passengers, 28 were burnt beyond recognition, while two others who survived the initial crash later died from their injuries. Two passengers remained in critical condition. Ondo State FRSC Sector Commander Samuel Ibitoye confirmed that excessive speeding and driving against traffic caused the crash. He urged drivers to maintain their vehicles, avoid reckless driving, and called on passengers to speak out against unsafe driving practices. Away from that sad story now, let's turn our attention to the oil sector. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has given President Bola Ahmed Tinubu 7 days deadline to address allegation of corruption in Nigeria's oil sector. SERAP demands an investigation into the disappearance of over 26 billion naira from the Petroleum Technology Development Fund and the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources in 2021. The group has called on Attorney General Lateef Fagbemi and anti-corruption agencies to take immediate action. According to SERAP, if no response is received within the specified time frame, SERAP warns it will pursue legal action to ensure accountability. The revelations from an Auditor General's report suggest significant financial mismanagement and violations of national laws. Also staying with the oil sector, the Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, says its members have started loading petroleum products from the Port Harcourt and Warri refineries. Petron spokesman Joseph Obele confirmed the development, saying it proves the refineries are now operational. He noted that products such as diesel, kerosene, and petrol are now available, creating competition that could drive down fuel prices. Obele added that the revival of the refineries will reduce adulterated fuel in circulation and curb crude oil theft, boosting Nigeria's oil production and revenue. He also highlighted job creation and community empowerment as key benefits of the refineries' return to full operation. Let's head back still on oil and gas story this time. Let's look at what the situation really is, especially with the fuel stations, looking at the price reduction. Well, I'm being joined by our correspondent, Biola Festus, who joins me live. Good morning to you, Biola. Hoping you can hear me.
I can hear you. Good morning, Johansson.
All right, great. Can you tell us where you are and what's the situation there, especially looking at the fact that the prices have dropped? Any significant changes?
I'm currently at MRS fueling station at Alakbere right now, and the prices of fuel still remain the same. It hasn't dropped yet.
Well, what are motorists possibly saying at the moment? Are motorists looking forward to the drop in price? And can you also share with us what the atmosphere or the area, vicinity looks like this morning?
We spoke to some buyers earlier, and they are looking forward to a drop in price. But however, it is yet to drop. We also spoke to the management of the MRS fueling station, and they promised that at the close of business today, the prices of pump price is expected to drop because they need time to review the old price in order to effect the new one.
I see. But first off, I also want to ask, when you got to the filling station, did you see any queues, or better still, how is it? Is it filled up to the brim, or are people buying, possibly filling up their tanks, as it were?
There seems to be a little bit of queue in MRS than we saw while we passed by NNPC. I guess they think the prices must have dropped because we understand that MRS filling station has partnership with Dangote refinery. So, of course, they should be the one expected to reduce or to crash their price to correspond with the new lifting price.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hope that the filling stations will indeed follow suit, since Dangote refinery has dropped the price. Hopefully, they would also do the same. Thank you so much, Abiola, for talking to us. We would indeed get back to you in our subsequent news bulletin as you crisscross different parts of Lagos State and beyond. Thanks for your time. Well, let's move on now with our very next story. Nigeria's electricity tariffs will increase in the coming months, according to Olu Vegejen, Special Advisor to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the President of Nigeria, on energy. While speaking at the Africa Heads of State Energy Summit in Tanzania, Vegejen said tariffs must rise by about 66% to reflect the actual cost of electricity supply. Well, she emphasized the need for a balance between higher tariffs and subsidies for low-income consumers. The move aims to improve power reliability, attract private investment, and boost infrastructure. Vegejen noted that Nigeria currently transmits only 8 gigawatts out of 14 gigawatts installed, with just 4 to 5 gigawatts reaching consumers. She stressed that energy reforms are critical to achieving Nigeria's goal of a $1 trillion economy. Well, away from the price hike, which indeed is looming, let's go straight to telecommunication. When we come back after the break, we'll look at Nigeria's telecommunications sector. Companies in Nigeria will introduce new tariffs as well. Starts in March. Find out more in a moment. Welcome back. Some economic experts in Nigeria have thrown their weight behind the economic reforms being implemented by the current government, saying that they are essential for the nation's development despite the temporary hardships they may have caused. This was during a one-day engagement in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where they assessed the policies being implemented by President Bola Tinubu and his renewed hope agenda and its impact on the nation's economic landscape. Well, let's move on now to our next story and tell you that telecommunications companies in Nigeria will introduce new tariffs starting in March, according to the Association of Licensed Telecommunication Operators of Nigeria. Well, Alton Chairman Benga Adebayo confirmed that operators are currently filing, reviewing, and obtaining regulatory approvals before rolling out new rates. This follows the Nigerian Communications Commission's approval of a 50% tariff hike. Adebayo emphasized that the adjustment is crucial for the sector's survival, adding that telcos cannot be expected to subsidize other industries. He also noted progress in resolving the 250 billion naira USSD debt owed by banks. Customers can expect gradual tariff changes from next week, with full implementation by next month. Let's tell you that devastating floods to prolonged droughts, climate change is no longer a distant threat. It is a reality that communities in Nigeria are battling with every day. Experts say that if urgent action is not taken to mitigate its effects on citizens, the damage done could become irreversible. Our correspondent Joseph Idong has more in this report.
With severe floods and extended droughts impacting communities across the country, many will agree that Nigeria has had its own fair share of challenges associated with climate change. Today, farmers like Abraham Jimmy are struggling to cope with the irregular and harsh changes in weather patterns, which have become increasingly severe and unpredictable.
You pour water for 3 days, you see the water have dried off due to the weather. Sometimes you see how the weather will be cool, even from this dry season. You will see sometimes you see breast. Sometimes you will see the well in the night, even in the day. You see how breeze will follow, will be blowing. You feel you can be able to even go under sun, after sun, and even walk into the sun. But when you come to sometimes, you see the way they hot.
While the government has made commitments to reduce carbon emissions, experts believe that more needs to be done to reduce reliance on fossil fuels and tackle deforestation.
The biggest source of climate change is how we get and use our energy. The obvious thing that we need to do is to move away from generating our energy from fossil fuel to generating our energy from renewable sources. The good news is that increasingly generating energy from renewable sources such as solar and hydro and wave have become more competitive. The unit cost of generating energy from solar has fallen dramatically.
From plastic pollution to gas flaring, Nigeria faces numerous environmental challenges, thus needing to reduce its carbon emissions. With many citizens unaware of how their daily activities contribute to climate change, experts say that transitioning to renewable energy, enforcing existing deforestation laws, and investing in public awareness campaigns are key ways to address these crises.
Waste management is a very big gap. We do not have a lot of waste management companies, because if we say we're going to leave that to the government, it's also not going to be sustainable.
We have renewable energy issues. We have solar. We have wind. We have so many areas of renewable energy that youth can be engaged to be self-sustained.
Our forest cover is being lost at an alarming rate. So we need to arrest this by aggressively pursuing a afforestation and reforestation policy. And by the way, at an individual level, people need to make better choices.
Environmental experts say that the challenges posed by climate change in Nigeria are real and require solutions that involve both policymakers and the public. They call for increased awareness and bold actions that will determine the country's future. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Let's move on now to health matters. The Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare says it is committed to delivering President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's vision for a transformed healthcare system in Nigeria. Health Minister Professor Muhammad Ali Pate announced that 2025 will be a pivotal year with clear and ambitious targets set to improve healthcare delivery nationwide. He emphasized the government's accountability to the people, stating that progress will be measured by tangible results. Key initiatives include expanding access to quality healthcare, strengthening medical infrastructure, and enhancing social welfare programs. The ministry assures Nigerians that it will work tirelessly to meet these goals, ensuring a healthier population and a stronger healthcare system.
As I have shared previously, we are determined to transform the primary healthcare landscape. And this is a journey that I have been on since many years ago as the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency CEO in 2008. The sector-wide approach to health reform, which has brought together federal institutions, state governments, local communities, development partners, non-governmental organizations, our traditional institutions that we revere so much, to form a coherent line of an action. And this year, we are positioned to expand the impact of our sector-wide approach in very practical terms. In view of our ambitious yet achievable commitments to double the current number of primary healthcare facilities in Nigeria that are functional by 2027. I'm pleased to report to you that in 2025, 40% of all the primary healthcare facilities that have been assessed at level 1 during our thorough diagnostic process will be upgraded to level 2, therefore significantly increasing the availability of the facilities that are capable of delivering integrated sexual and reproductive health services, including family planning and post-procedural care across all states of the Federation, and maternal and child health services.
Welcome back. The news continues in the east of the continent, where Djibouti security forces have carried out a drone strike near the Ethiopian border, killing 8 rebel fighters and an unknown number of civilians. The country's defense ministry confirmed the attack on Sunday, stating it targeted the Armed Front for the Restoration of Unity and Democracy, FRUDA, which Djibouti considers a terrorist group. Authorities acknowledged civilian casualties and launched an investigation. While Ethiopian media reported the strike happened inside Ethiopia, Djibouti insists it occurred within its borders. FRUDA has been engaged in armed rebellion since 1991, claiming to defend Afar ethnic interests. Djibouti, strategically located along key global shipping routes, hosts major U.S. and French military bases. Well, stay in the east for a moment. At least 56 people have been killed in artillery shelling and airstrikes across Greater Khartoum as Sudan's devastating war continues to escalate. A busy market in army-controlled Omdurman was hit by RSF shelling, killing 54 people and injuring 158 others. Overwhelming Al Naul Hospital, according to medical sources and the Sudan Health Ministry. The RSF has denied responsibility for the attack, while Doctors Without Borders described the scene at the hospital as utter carnage. The Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces have been locked in a power struggle since April 2023, with the conflict intensifying as the army fights to reclaim control of the capital. The United Nations has condemned a series of deadly attacks on civilians across Sudan, including shelling at a market in Omdurman that killed at least 60 people. Well, UN humanitarian coordinator Clementine Nkweta Salami called the attacks horrific and indiscriminate. Pro-democracy lawyers say artillery fire from the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces struck the market in army-controlled Omdurman. Meanwhile, an airstrike on an RSF-held area in Khartoum killed 2 civilians. Fighting between the Sudanese army and RSF has raged since April 2023, with renewed violence in Darfur and North Kordofan. Nkweta Salami urged an end to the conflict, stating that the suffering of Sudanese civilians has gone on for too long. In another development, pro-government militias in the Democratic Republic of Congo are training new recruits to fight against the M23 rebel group, which has begun advancing south after seizing key territory in eastern Congo. Despite being under-resourced compared to the Rwanda-backed M23, the militias supporting the Congolese armed forces are receiving critical food supplies from private donors. The conflict in eastern Congo has intensified, with M23's recent gains raising concerns about further instability. The Congolese government has accused Rwanda of backing M23, a claim Rwanda denies.
alobaka soki mobali alete akozwa force te akosala awa toye bayeli biso awa mpona kobatela mboka na biso soki tolie te tokozwa force te vraiment nasengeli epa bakonzi basalisa nyonso mpo tozwa ata na sapato mpona mosala.
Nous avions entraîné nos compatriotes ici pendant 3 jours déjà. Ils sont déjà aptes à toutes les gymnastiques que nous sommes en train de leur offrir. Il y a les sauts de crapaud et consorts, il y a les rampages. Et il y a d'autres que je ne voulais pas donner ici pour ne pas donner secret à nos ennemis parce que vous savez que nous sommes en train d'y aller d'ici bientôt. Mais je voulais seulement rassurer que nos compatriotes ici sont bel et bien formés dans des gymnastiques pour les chats de bataille.
Kule kabisa itatusaidia kwa kuleta force, kule kwetenda pambana kwa kuwa vita inapiganiwa mufaso zote mutumbu na munguvu.
Today marks the beginning of 3-day investing in African mining in Daba in Cape Town. The event brings together world-renowned speakers and industry leaders, top mining experts and influential policy makers who will share their insights on the latest trends, technologies and strategies shaping the future of mining. The Indaba will be held under the theme Future-Proofing African Mining Today, which places the focus on stability, sustainability, and economic value for the African mining sector. South African Minister of Minerals Resources, Gwede Mantashe, on Monday delivered the keynote address on behalf of South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Well, to discuss this, I'm being joined by David Van Wyk, lead researcher, Benchmarks Foundation. It's good to have you, David, join us this morning. Can you provide an overview of the main objectives and theme of the Investment in Daba Mining Conference?
I think the mining conference is an investment conference, so it basically seeks to attract foreign investment into African mining. With the theme of what minerals are critical for Africa and, of course, future-proofing mining in Africa today for tomorrow, for the future. The problem that we are having as the Benchmarks Foundation with the theme is that mining is not really sustainable. South Africa and South Africa need to move beyond extractive economics. We need to have preparations for a post-mining economy by having concurrent plans developed so that we can utilize minerals for African development and not simply shift it out to foreign countries for foreign investors and so on. I think the Trump presidency in the United States makes this absolutely important. South Africa is facing possible sanctions from the United States, and the United States has massive mining investment in South Africa. So South Africa needs to future-proof its minerals against this kind of exploitation that the United States represents at the moment. And we need to make sure that our minerals are actually used for the benefit of our people and communities. We have 6,000 abandoned mines in South Africa, which shows that mining companies are actually hugely irresponsible in this country. They simply walk away from their legal requirement to actually close their mines properly, to rehabilitate their mines, and to make sure that their mines do not impact negatively on the environment. And this is a problem we have throughout Africa, including in Nigeria with the oil industry and the Delta in Nigeria. So it is critically important that Africans begin to set the agenda for mining and minerals in the continent with the aim of moving Africa beyond extractivism towards a developed economy.
Okay. Towards a developed economy, that's exactly the goal for especially most countries in Africa. But how does the conference facilitate networking between investors, government officials, and local businesses?
Well, I think that most African countries have representatives here, either at ambassadorial level or at mining department level. Over the next 3 or 4 days, they will all get together in one place, basically promoting investment in their countries and promoting investment in mining. But I also think that it's important for Africans to realize that we need to invest as Africans in our own mining industry and not so much rely on foreign investment, which is sometimes unreliable. If we look at what Trump is doing right now, we are not so sure that that investment from the United States in mining in South Africa is sustainable or that it is even reliable. So in any case, what we have found in our research is that many countries that invest in South African mining actually borrow the money from South African banks. They don't bring money in, but they take an awful lot of money out.
Let me also ask, how can Africa take advantage of platforms like this to attract foreign investment in the mining sector? We do understand that Africa is blessed, is rich with a lot of mineral resources, and it's about time that Africa continues to stand strong as playing a pivotal role in ensuring that we do, increase, at the same time also continue to invite the international community as a means of foreign direct investment. So how can we do that? How can we take advantage of that?
I think it's critically important that we have uniform policies across the continent so that foreign investors can't play one country off against another. So that Africa has all the critical minerals that is required for future development in Africa, for a just transition to an alternative energy, for example, for the development of the global economy. The global economy has developed on the basis of African mining, but it's always been an exploitative relationship. Africa also needs to begin to look at very carefully who its real friends are and who are just here to exploit the continent. So we have to be very, very careful about the future and how we prepare for the future. And we need to make sure that we all sing from the same hymn book as Africans with regard to policy, so that we don't have policies that undermine one another in the process of seeking to attract foreign investment.
Let me ask finally, in your opinion, what policy changes are necessary for African nations to maximize their benefits from mining?
Well, I think that we want beneficiation of our minerals in Africa. We want our minerals to be processed in Africa. We want manufacturing in Africa. So people who want to invest in Africa must accept the responsibility of investing in Africa beyond mining and extractives. You know, we need a motor car industry in Africa. We need an electronics industry in Africa. We need an artificial intelligence industry in Africa itself. And those are the things that we should be promoting. So people who want to invest here should accept that those are the things that they need to invest in beyond mining, so that we take the continent to a situation where we've got a sustainable African economy beyond mining. Otherwise, we are just going to be left with derelict, onerous, and abandoned mines and a huge environmental mess.
I want to say thank you so much, David Van Wyk, lead researcher for Marx Foundation, this Benchmarks Foundation. Thanks for your time and thanks for talking to us this morning.
Thank you so much.
So that U.S. President Donald Trump has announced the suspension of all future funding to South Africa, citing concerns over land exploration policies. On his Truth Social platform, Trump claimed South Africa was confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly. His comments follows a bill signed by President Cyril Ramaphosa allowing the government to offer nil compensation in some cases of land exploration. Critics, including Elon Musk, have raised concerns comparing it to Zimbabwe's past land seizures. However, Praetorian says the law ensures fair negotiations with landowners. With land ownership still largely in white hands, 3 decades after apartheid, the issue remains deeply divisive.
Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. And until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing, they're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that. It's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
Worldwide, protesters took to the streets of Houston, Texas, marching against President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown.
El motivo de nuestra presencia esta tarde es para apoyar a nuestros hermanos latinos inmigrantes, para apoyarlos sobre todo en contra de las ideas locas de nuestro actual presidente, que no tiene. Somos gente de bien, somos gente trabajadora, somos gentes que venimos a apoyar el país también. Entonces,
well, today marks day 1 for the 3-day mining investment conference in South Africa in Durban. We'll take you there right away.
Please, investors, pursue them. Those are the minerals of the future. Those are the minerals of the future. Notwithstanding, with the growing demand of these minerals, Africa needs to assert its advantage and take charge of the growing demand. You know, I was listening to, I have ministers in my cabinet who always worry about geopolitics. With this standing threat that, yeah, because you passed an exploration act, therefore Trump will withhold funding to South Africa. And I said, let's not immobilize Africa. Let's withhold minerals to US. That is it. If they don't give us money, let's not give them minerals. But the reality, they take our minerals, but say why we're withdrawing funding. No, we have minerals in the continent, and therefore we have something that we have. We're not just beggars, but we must just use that endowment for our benefit as a continent. But if as a continent we are frightened, we fear everything, we are going to collapse, and will collapse with minerals at our doorstep. So my appeal is that Africa is the world's richest mining jurisdiction, And that issue is an issue that we must internalize as a continent, use it to our advantage. It's one of the things that we can use to compete in the world. We can't be the poorest continent. And being the richest mining destination in position of 90% of world chromium. You know, we produce a lot of chrome in South Africa, China builds its chrome industry on the back of our chromium, and they are bigger than us. That is unnatural. Because we export raw commodities, China stockpiles raw commodities, and we continue mining. At a point, as is the case currently, China just floods the market with chrome, and the price of chrome goes down. And our chrome mining companies say, we can't survive, we barely survive. But they're the biggest producers, and it is on their production that the price of chrome is suppressed by China. And I'm sharing this with my colleagues in the continent. It happens to all of us. This is what I call race to the bottom. A race to the bottom. We race with one another to the bottom by not taking advantage of what we have and actually become victims of what we have. We can't allow that to happen forever. Therefore, the notion of critical minerals lacks the consensus of definition. Instead of using a narrow definition and classification system of these minerals, MINTEC has adopted a methodology that is based on assessing critical minerals across primary criteria: export significance, local economy, economic significance, industrial importance, employment, global demands. This is informed by our firm view that critical minerals cannot be synonymous to energy transition. They must be given a broader definition because they are more critical than just energy. Now, instead, they must facilitate the development of sustainable objectives within the domestic industrial sector. The strategy is now near completion and slated for cabinet approval in our country by the end of this month, possibly. And for the benefit of delegates for this endeavor, we'll tomorrow unpack both the study of the state of mining in South Africa and the country's critical mineral strategy. We'll talk to colleagues because we don't think it's something that should be ours. We should share that and discuss with everybody else next to us so that we share the approach. It will not help me. I see my colleague from Angola here. What does it help for me to do something different? Angola does something different. That is where Africa becomes vulnerable. And we compete to different directions, but we belong together. But when you talk to Europe, for example, you never talk to a country in Europe. You talk to the EU because they've discovered the power of belonging together. We have not discovered that power. We move different directions.
Well, that's just one speaker. We look forward to hear many more speakers who will be shedding light on investing, especially in mining there in South Africa. We'll bring to you more updates on the event happening, especially for 3 days, starting off on day one. And that's all on the news for this hour. But before we go, let's take a quick look at some of the major stories. Several killed in an attack on Amegu Nkalaga community in Ebonyi State. Nigerian Army dismantles 12 illegal refineries, arrests 16 in Niger Delta. And we also told you about the militia recruits concerning the new fighters to battle M23 rebels. If you're watching News Central, remember you can watch us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the following news platforms. And don't forget to on social media as well. You can stream live on YouTube as well as on Facebook. The ladies will be here for 10 a.m. Join them for Jasiri. In the meantime, I'm Joe Hansen, thanking you for watching. Good morning.